Welcome everybody, I'm George Karayiannis and you're listening to Branding for Greeks, the first Greek podcast about brands and branding. A chance to explore how brands are built, how we perceive them, what branding really means, the tools it uses, and how it can help businesses, from startups to multinationals, grow the value of the brands they manage. Today, I have the pleasure and honor to host on Branding for Greeks the founders of LYON and LYON, an award-winning branding and design agency from UK. I had the opportunity to meet Mat and Benny Lyon at the last EPDA conference held in Warsaw in October 2024. If you are in the design industry, you are probably familiar with their exceptional work. Last year, they won the prestigious Best of Show prize at the Dieline Awards for their groundbreaking work on SITCH, an innovative refillable hair care brand. For those who might not yet be acquainted with LYON and LYON, I highly recommend visiting their website and exploring their inspiring portfolio. So without further ado, let's welcome Mat and Benny Lyon to today's episode. Guys, thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I am thrilled to have you on Branding for Greeks today.
I was going to say, if we want to do a Greek version, just give us 5 years and we can do the Greek version of the interview. Yeah, for sure. 5 years maybe. But no, thanks for having us, mate. It's a pleasure. And, we met at the EDPA. You were an absolute star, so more than happy to be on the show.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Your presentation was also truly amazing and insightful. Could you start by telling us a bit about yourselves, your work, and the philosophy behind the agency, behind the LYON and LYON?
So, yeah, if you were to wander on our website now, you'd see that we do good work for good people. So, yeah, it's a funny way of saying that we really focus on working with brands that are doing good for the world. And that's been our focus ever since our conception, like 11 years ago now. We specialize in branding, packaging, but we now have a really strong sort of digital side. But it seems weird to kind of like pigeonhole us because although like a lot of brands want to do that, even today I was talking to someone about a really crazy sort of art-based brief. So, we enjoy the kind of really off-the-wall briefs for sure. I think that kind of distills a little bit about us. And one core thing that goes through it all is like the idea of like making something very creative, but also very commercial. That's kind of also where we're at.
I think we often talk about our work as being simply clever. So like a really clever little hook or something that kind of really, stirs the imagination and gets people really interested in a brand. And it's very simple, very easy to digest, but maybe the thinking behind it is a bit more intense.
Actually, the phrase that you mentioned, that you are trying to balance creativity with commerciality, it was something that captured my attention during also your presentation at the EPDA conference. I know that probably you also share the same insights. It's something that a lot of creatives struggle with. Everybody probably is trying to keep this balance. How do you handle it? Is it just a saying for the website, or it's something that it's rooted in your philosophy? Yeah. Sorry about that. I have to be a little bit provocative.
Oh, do it. No, do it. Yeah, do it for sure. Because it's a lot of brands, a lot of agencies might say empty things, but no, it was a real turning point for us in 2023. I think we'd had like kind of a rough year, and we were really looking at how we could change things up. And we've always been an agency that is always focused on the creativity side, for sure. I'm sure you'll hear some stories from us about certain projects where that's maybe been a bit too far on that side. But yeah, the commercial side was really about us saying, okay, well, we know that we're an extremely creative agency compared to most, but how can we make that work better for our clients and also better for us? So better processes, more strategy, and also from our side, getting ourselves out there more. Hence why we met you at the EPDA, those kinds of things were a big part of it. So yeah, it's been the driving force for the last 2 years of our company.
You managed to balance it? I mean, the strategies that you apply, do you find them with results?
Well, I think what's been useful is that we were both acting as creative directors previously, and no one was really taking ownership over, the sales, especially, I suppose. Like Ben was always more in that role, but we were both calling ourselves creative directors with other things as well, other hats. So I think just having that division straight away where Ben went to the CEO role, now Chief Creative Officer, and those two things have really helped us separate those two sides of the business in a sense. But it means that, I might try and push creative side more independently now, whereas Ben is also trying to push the other side. So we do kind of meet in the middle really nicely. Whereas before there was nobody was on the other side, on the commercial side.
But that also to add to that point, because when you talk about balance, there's two questions. There's within the company, and then there's also externally, isn't there, in terms of the client work. And I think in the past we've always struggled with we've gone way too creative almost. We still ended up with a commercial product for sure, but I think now with me being more focused on the commercial side for us and for the clients, we're able to sort of level it out more, and it's definitely been a win-win.
I understand that setting certain roles in the team help you, as you mentioned. Is there anything else that, any strategies, any methodologies that you apply to your work and help you towards that goal, that vision?
I think part of that has been being quite process-driven, trying to basically get everything down that we know about the business and how it runs and how it works into a second brain, which is we use Notion for that. So part of that has been down to the processes. And the other success there, I think, has been to just be a lot more focused on the numbers and on targets. So, we really got a clear idea of where we want to go for the year, and then how that breaks down monthly, and then what we need to do to get to this point of hitting those targets. So yeah, I think those two things combined have really helped us.
Do you have any conflicts between you, meeting the two different pillars, creativity and commerciality, since you separated the roles, as you said?
We always have had conflicts because we are twin brothers, but out of the conflict, there was always a solution and always a resolution. It's been the same since we were children. We used to have a little side story. We used to have this drawer at home, this big wooden set of drawers. And for some reason, we decided that every time we'd have a conflict as children, because there was never a winner, we could never decide the winner. It was almost impossible to decide who won. So at some point, we'd have enough and we'd put all of our bad energy into this set of drawers. And that kind of took all the bad kind of vibes away. And interestingly enough, that's kind of how we work now. So we were able to really conclude, nothing holds more than a minute or a day. We're very quick to conclude, but
we've never had a conflict that's led us to be in work or personally that's led us to be to hold a grudge ever. It's the most honest, upfront conversation with someone as you can get. It can be fiery, but there's no emotion in it. It's just pure facts. It's pure. This is my opinion. That's your opinion. And we don't care because we love each other and we trust each other at the end. So.
Have you noticed if this approach has influenced how clients perceive and approach your agency? By that, I mean in both directions. Some clients might be attracted to an agency primarily for its creative style, while others might prioritize a more commercial perspective. In your experience, which of these scenarios best reflects how clients approach Lion and Lion?
because there's so much in that mix. You know, there's first of all, I think when a client goes to our site, they want to see. It depends what type of client. Some clients just aren't our bag. You know, if you're super corporate and you want to stay corporate looking, then that's probably not the right kind of match. So there's a filter there, first of all. But like when they come to our site, they see that this really diverse portfolio of work and a very diverse style, but like very much a line and line style. So that takes them first of all. But I think hopefully through reading our case studies and then eventually having a call with us, they understand that the actual depth behind the agency and how we're really fixed on strategy, which is, we would see strategy as kind of like, it's still very creative, as you know, because I know you do a lot of creative on your agency with strategy, but it definitely has a commercial side. But the final thing is just a mix, the combination of like Matt and I together and our staff. Like we're quite a potent, strong combination of people, and I think that is the thing that ends up kind of sealing the contract when they meet us and understand the depth of the work and who we are.
How do you evaluate or determine whether the brands you collaborate with are making a positive impact on the world?
A really good question, because there's a couple of points. I think the first thing is, what is good? What do we see as being good, and what isn't good? That's definitely a question that we still ask ourselves regularly, because we think we know what good is, and then something comes up and it sort of changes how we feel or how wide that net of good is, and maybe it gets smaller. I think ultimately, like, where we started with the idea of doing good was that we were working with a lot of packaging, and in particular, we didn't want to use any single-use plastics and that sort of stuff, or there had to be a very good case for it. We didn't want to have throwaway single-use plastics. So we started there really in terms of like, okay, right, well, maybe it's plastic use there. But as it evolved and we started to really kind of put that at the forefront of the agency, it has, continued, I guess, us asking questions. And I think some cases are really clear. Like somebody came to us to do a disposable vape brand, which 100% that is a not good brand. That's a not good, maybe vaping takes people away from smoking, but I think we all know now that there's also problems with vaping. But in particular, it's putting these like throwaway hard pieces of plastic into the environment. People smoke it, chuck it away. Maybe they don't throw it in the bin, they throw it on the floor. So those kinds of things are really easy to say no to. But I think I won't want to mention names, but what is difficult when we're talking about being good is kind of the politics behind some brands they're funded by. So, we've had instances where clients have been funded by people that we didn't know about to start with, and we found out, and we're then no longer working with them. So yeah, that it kind of goes deeper and deeper. So it's a very, very hard thing to answer, I've got to say. And we're constantly updating what we think good is, basically. I think one last thing I'd say with that as well, you mentioned about interviewing the clients. One thing we're really keen at the minute is that we've had over the 10, 11 years, we've had, I guess experiences of working with clients that are just innately quite difficult. And I think anyone working with a particular client would find them difficult. So there's almost a part of us that would like to get into this idea of like, can we actually interview them in terms of working out what kind of client are they going to be? Are they going to cause us a lot of extra energy and stress? Is it just, do we just not connect that well? And are they better to find someone else? So there's another side of good, like a kind of a good client, I suppose, as well,
Do you also give them advice on being more good? I mean, selecting papers or, I don't know, practices that are more, we are familiar in our industry, but probably the client is not. Do you give them these kind of advices?
Yeah, we had a client that didn't, unfortunately the product didn't get launched in the end, but perhaps I shouldn't say the name just in case, but they were a bacon brand making vegan bacon from jackfruit, which was quite new and novel at the time. advised them on like a full rebrand and packaging. The packaging had 0 nasties in it altogether. So it was a shrink wrapped bag, which sounds bad, but actually it was made from a biodegradable plastic. Yeah, it then had a card wrap around it, a full card sort of envelope. That ink was soy ink. So it was the best possible ink we could use. We took away all of the glue, so there's no glue whatsoever, and we made a really nice mechanism to kind of click and lock the card together. So we were really proud of it. It was a piece that was, they were keen to be as sustainable as they could be, but it was literally the very pinnacle of like the most sustainable thing we could make, whilst also making this packaging really, really work, look beautiful, protect the product, shelf life, and all the rest of it. So yeah, we took them on that journey with us.
Can I add a little something to that as well, George? For the listeners, it's worth checking out. We set up a sister brand in 2019 called Undo. And the website is undo-undo-undo-.com. And that was kind of our reaction to the kind of, I guess, like the eco crisis that was going on, and our kind of reaction to using plastics with our clients. If you go on it and check it out, you'll see that it's got a really strong statement about who we work with and what we could create. And at the time we'd set up this sister brand to sort of showcase the amazing things that people were doing to counteract things like carbon in the atmosphere. And we were looking at designers, for example, that were taking carbon out of the world and making into jewelry, all sorts of alternative things, but more so just to teach our community and our clients about what's happening, and to take the sort of doom aspect out of climate control and just say, look, yes, it is terrible. We need to do something about it, but here are the things that are happening right now in that sector. And that's what kind of became part of this GOOOOD LYON LYON. But yeah, we still want to do more with that brand because it really started really well for us.
I want to make now a comment, let's say out of script. It's something that happened last week, probably. It's the announcement of Mark Zuckerberg about changing the policies of Facebook. And, as a designer who is also concerned about the values the brands bring to society, I felt very weird about a company changing the way it talks and the way it sets some barriers and some values that will affect the society as a total. And it seemed weird. I don't know if you feel the same. Because, you talk about goodness, you talk about brands that give back to the society, and you also urge them to do even more steps towards that. And now some people seem to change the game, the rules of the game. Yeah. What happens there?
Yeah, none of us know where that's going to go, but maybe we could become better judges of the right kind of information that's out there from like the media perspective. I don't know.
It just seems the exact opposite time to stop fact checking, because AI is so powerful, and we could do so much with it visually and in terms of content. Even, I don't know, there's a story recently where Apple News, for example, like some of their headlines came up that were totally incorrect. They'd said that a certain tennis player was gay. Someone else had won a competition of some sort, and he didn't. It's just that's coming out as news. So yeah, I just think like the moral, in terms of the general moral standing, I think like we absolutely need to be fact checking. And
maybe it's just a good opportunity to turn off Facebook, right? Like I was thinking, do I really need it? All I'd miss is the marketplace. I love selling stuff on there, but maybe it's a good opportunity just to say.
When you develop a brand, do you prioritize elements that you believe that should work more commercially, let's say, and other more aesthetically pleasing?
In the conceptual stages, we're really very open. And I think the main thing that we're looking for, which lands sweetly creative and commercial, is the hook. Like we're trying to find this like one or two hooks for consumers to really notice this brand. That is really what we're looking at. Like, we don't want to create like another hair beauty brand that just looks the same as everyone else. It needs something that makes it a hook. So that's definitely one thing we're hoping kind of comes up in the process. You can't just design a hook out. It kind of really needs to come from within.
And I think if you're talking about kind of balancing the commercial side and the creative side, because that's the creative work, I don't think we aim to be any less. We definitely don't aim to be any less commercial or any less creative or any more commercial. It's more just I think the commercial side just comes into how we run the business and how we approach to the business side of things rather than sort of the work getting any more commercial. So yeah, it's always, like Ben said, it's always about really focusing on the idea and having a great idea or a great hook. That hasn't changed.
Do you think that there is any difference in that approach depending on the industry that you might have to work with?
100%. So like, it's funny. So we're doing lots and lots of work in the biotech sector right now. So we just worked with a brand, for example, that make plastic out of seaweed and water. That's it. And for those biotech brands, we're probably on our 4th biotech brand now. The need is quite different. We almost apply more of a B2C approach to these B2B brands because it's a way of them kind of reaching above the line and looking completely different. So yeah, I think they need that kind of treatment, whereas more of our retail stuff, they definitely rely more on a hook, I think. And certainly when you're looking at packaging, something that really looks different on the shelf, it's almost like there is a combination of things, but certainly in the retail side, there has to be this like hook in the packaging side of things for sure.
One of your projects received the prestigious Best of Show award at last year's Dieline Awards. Could you share a bit more about this specific project? I'm particularly interested in how it relates to what we have been discussing so far. Does this brand have a positive impact on the world? Also, how did you balance creativity and commercial success in this case? I mean, clearly from a creative standpoint, it's exceptional, hence the award. But what about the commercial aspect of this project? How did it perform commercially?
This particular project, I mean, the reason we won the award was because they appreciated the fact that it was kind of realistically sustainable. So first of all, they loved the aesthetic, which the kind of hook there is that these things are made from really simple geometric sort of shapes, and they tessellate together as a team. So the shelf display becomes like an interesting cityscape. So that's the kind of hook, and they look really quite unusual for something in that world. But I think the reason we won the award was because of this realistic approach to sustainability, which is a combination of our work and the work with the client. You know, we're a very, very collaborative studio. We're not a studio that has big egos. And so we decided as a team that originally we were going to go with something that was kind of made from wheat straw or plastic and had much more of a sustainable approach on materials. But we realized that it was actually kind of like greenwashing in a way. And the fact that this thing uses recycled plastic along with refill pouches was almost enough. We've done other cool things like the cardboard that wraps around the product is like we only use like half the card. So there's a few little things in there, but it's SITCH was just one of those kind of like magic moments where design's unique, it's sustainable, it looks interesting in the sector, and just lots of nice little ideas in one combination.
Did the client thought, or maybe you, I don't know, that the idea was too bold?
They literally came to us and said, please give us an award-winning piece of packaging. You know, like we want to turn heads. We want to do something bold. And when we presented the concepts, it was it was probably the least bold of all the concepts. So like the other concepts were kind of way over there, but the client was well up for the journey. And if it wasn't for them trusting us and being kind of really focused on having a unique silhouette in the packaging, then we wouldn't have achieved the goals that we have for this one.
But I think what's worth saying though is that we where we presented the original concept, like we normally do 3 routes, and one of the routes, which is this route they picked, it was pretty bold, but also the actual making that particular route a real life product was going to be a really difficult task. Partly because like Ben said, the packaging nests together, so they're the same width, for example, or they're half a width or whatever. So the size of each SKU directly correlates with the next one. So any changes that we had to make to volume or shape or size, we had to change the whole range, which we did a few times. So it was a really, really long development process, and we developed the entire thing. So we created totally bespoke packaging with an engineer as well. And, we spent a lot of time on that. And there were definitely points where, we talk about commerciality versus creativity, where we were just like, what have we done? We've created a rod for our own backs, English saying, I suppose, but like we created a problem for ourselves. We could have had this done ages ago and, the project would be finished. Clients stayed with us on that journey, and we've created something that they're really proud of. We're really proud of. It really stands out on the shelf and it fulfills the brief, and it came in at the right price for them and stuff. So, it's, that's a win-win.
Another note on that one, it's just been featured. It's going to be featured in LuxPack Los Angeles in the Dieline Sustainable Showcase. It keeps giving back. Like all that hard work keeps giving back. So it's been a great project.
This is great. Well done. It's an amazing job, and I'm very jealous.
Oh, I don't know, mate. It was a long journey. It cost a lot of money to do it.
It might have been one of these bags here. That's this might be SITCH. This one.
Yeah. A few of these grays maybe.
Going through your website, I saw that you worked for another brand that I love, and recently I did the case study for that. I analyzed that case study to some students about Who Gives a Crap. How was the collaboration with a brand that, correct me if I am wrong, you didn't do the work from the beginning? The brand was already there.
Correct.
They came to you just for a line extension. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the base of the branding was there. The brand had been very successful through COVID, as a lot of toilet paper was sold, I suppose, and they had a really unique selling point. We were in charge of basically taking them from they were direct to consumer only, and they never really dealt in retail. So our brief was to create the first retail packaging for them within that the UK and EU. Yeah, so it was using a lot of their assets, a lot of their, I guess, work they'd done previously, but kind of involving that as well. So, and really trying to get together like what's unique about Who Gives a Crap and how do we tell this story in a retail setting. Unusual brand. Some people have heard of them. Some people have already buying the toilet paper already, and some people who you think would have heard of them have actually never heard of them. So it was kind of a educational piece as well. Like how do you tell people what this brand does, what's good about this toilet paper in a very, very quick way on the shelf.
Do you think that it's more difficult to work for a brand like, Who Gives a Crap, which has already an identity? Probably it sets some limitations to your creativity or to the brief, rather than a brand like SITCH, we said before, which is from scratch and you are totally responsible for everything?
It's a completely different experience. I think when we first got the brief and the timeline from them, we were like, oh God, yeah, this sounds simple. Like we've got all the tools. We just need to take the essence of them, reformat it and express it on the packaging. And in many ways, like it seems like a simple brief, but when you start to go down that route of like real, like the ultimate refinement you could ever do on a piece of packaging, because the whole idea with it was that it was meant to be like a billboard, like a series of billboard campaigns. So every side had to really maximize that kind of the real estate on the pack. So we enjoyed the experience. We didn't feel that our hands were tied creatively. Like we didn't feel like we were smothered. We could express ourselves fully within the Who Gives a Crap universe. And like I say, it was just completely refreshing compared to like working with brands who have just started and we're doing the whole thing for them. So
I think the difference as well is that when you're working with much bigger brands, like who gives a crap? Like we didn't meet the founder, for example. I think one of the co-founders were the original members, but we're versus working with smaller brands like SITCH, where you deal directly with founders. Everything's very personal when you're working directly with founders. So working within a much bigger team on a kind of a project rather than working on a whole rebrand, I do find that kind of freeing in a way compared to doing an entire brand for somebody where this brand is so important to them. It's their life savings or it's their, investment of the business. And it's so tied to them. So yeah, I actually think there's a lot of freedom in that as well. Like to just work on something that already exists, something that's just a part of a project and something that's kind of, you're working with a team rather than working directly with a co-founder or whatever.
Of course, I would like to ask you a few things about how you work. I mean, as an agency, can't resist the temptation. Probably our audience don't know that, but you mentioned that during the EPDA concert, and I was surprised that you run a 4-day week, your agency. How you manage that?
Our staff do. I don't know about us. It's a shift. I think it's a real shift in terms of mindset. And for example, I think at the time Matt was still at a point where his kids were at nursery or like one of them was at school. I just had a baby myself. So that kind of leads into like the original need for doing it was we wanted to give our staff like more kind of creative freedom. So on Friday, go learn how to fix a car or make chairs out of wood or whatever. But certainly for a lot of people in the company now, it's about like family time and however you want to use it. But it's been a big change. It's been a massive change for us. And it means that the weeks are really, really compact now. So it's a very intense week. We normally work like 9 till 6. And it's a very, very short amount of time. But our clients sign up to it. They agree to it. I don't know if they realistically, if they like it or not, but we deliver exactly what we say we're going to deliver based on our timelines, or their timelines, and we work within that. So
we've never had any direct complaints about it. There's a bit of like, you get a bit of jealousy, like some of our clients who like to work 24/7, they don't see the benefit in some way, it's not without its problems. Like Ben said, we, as business owners, we rarely have the 4 days. But it was COVID that enabled us to take that chance because we could test it out with the, I don't know if you had the furlough scheme in Greece or not, but the government would pay for, I guess they would pay some money where you could kind of work part-time and still pay your staff. So we actually just did that as a bit of a tester for like a month or two or something, just like, can we go down to 4 days? Will it work? And yeah, it's really helped us focus on our processes and be way more efficient. It's been very hard to go back to 5 days. I think as well that like when we think about our Fridays before, we'd be kind of clocked off by midday. People are just kind of like, looking at the clock, so it's kind of a waste of time anyway. And how we like to do it is that we'll often present on a Thursday. The client gets a Friday to kind of think and feedback and take stock, or even the weekend as well. Then on Monday, we've got the next stage. So it does work nicely like that if we can fit it into that ideal frame, but it doesn't mean we don't waste much time because we have a day where the client is getting feedback anyway. So,
And just to add to that as well from the commercial side, since we're all about the commercial creativity, since we implemented that, we have increased our turnover every year. So it hasn't had a direct effect on turnover. It's not reduced turnover in any way. And more so, it's actually a selling point when we pitch to our clients. It's in the deck. It's like the fourth or fifth thing that they see, and I think it really helps them to align us with them, and they know where we sit. They know where we sit with like well-being and how important it is for our staff to have great well-being and be creatively kind of revived when they come back in the next day. So yeah, it really is a stake in the ground to say, this is us, this is what we do, like it or lump it.
And maybe just the last point on the commerciality, but I think it's so hard to say if 4 days a week is the thing that's led us to be more profitable or have better turnover. I think probably going to 4 days a week has made us focus on our processes more and be more efficient and try and work harder to keep the 4 day week, So whichever way around it is, it's helped us be more commercial.
So no more next day requests, next day delivery request from a client.
Website launches are hard. Launching a website, because that's I don't know if you do websites, George, with your agency, but they're difficult. But we try to manage it so it doesn't
launch on a Monday. We have had to have, there'll be some emergency that one of us will pick up, or sometimes we'll need to work a Friday. We'll switch a day. The guys will switch a day and not work the Monday or whatever. So we are flexible for like the right thing. But the whole point is that we plan ahead, time with the client, so we don't have to do that.
Great. Also, your team, if I remember correctly, is full remotely, working remotely.
Yeah. So we're across the UK, but the irony is that we have a very international team, but they're all based in the UK. So if we come down from Scotland, we've got Annie, who's Australian, living in Glasgow. Then we have Ben in Sheffield, who's English. We have Jim, who is living in Manchester. And then we have Sam, who's Spanish, in London. Alexa in Bath, who's from Canada. And then Faye, who's English, in Oxford. So myself, I'm in South Wales. So we've got a broad spread of the UK, but different nationalities inside of the UK. So it's a real international office in the UK.
We're trying to pretend that Brexit didn't happen.
Also, another very interesting thing that you mentioned during our meeting EPDA, and our audience see it for itself on your website, is that you have something like, let's say, your pricing philosophy online, which is something I haven't seen that to another agency. I don't know if you have seen that to someone else, or it's your original idea. How does this work? Is it okay? Is it a filter?
I think, first of all, what I find, because I do a lot of the new business calls, and certainly people that are starting their first ever branding journey find it really useful because they have no idea, and I really feel for clients that are just stepping into, for example, creating their first brand, because there's so much information out there that is probably wrong or misconstrued. So we try to give potential clients as much information as possible before they talk to us. And the hope is that the creativity lines up with the price and the case studies line up with the price. Admittedly, the prices on the website are, there's quite a wide degree of fee on there, but it does act as a filter. So we still get some that come through and want things doing for £50 or something like that. Full. Someone came to the other day for a new website, packaging and brand for £500. So they didn't go to the pricing page. I think I just sent the pricing page to them. So just have a look at that first, maybe.
I think as well, it's like the industry is, for some reason, this is an industry where it is kind of smoke and mirrors. Where maybe there is more exclusivity if you don't tell someone the price, but you could spend £200,000 on a car and you're going to know what price it is. You know what you're buying. Why do we have to be gatekeepers of the price of things? It seems strange. Yeah. So hopefully it waste less time, positions us as still, the right price in the market, but people know what they're going to get.
Also good for our competitors.
You are open, and I think this is beneficial for everybody, for the clients, for the industry, for you. It's very good. Do you think that awards in our day have in mind also the commerciality of a work, or it's more about the aesthetic part of the work?
Well, a little side story with that, George, because some recent news for you. We actually picked up a D&AD award recently. You familiar with D&AD?
Yeah.
Well, there is a little story with this though. So we picked up the award because our designer was at a charity shop, at a second-hand shop, and he found this award for, I don't know if you can see it there, for £2.50. And it's a genuine DNA Day award. It's for DNA Day New Blood 2016 for Sebastian Thomas, who we're still trying to find. And it really posed a question to us about like the value of awards. Because this is it'd be a great award to win for sure, but this has currently been sold at a charity shop for £2.50. So isn't it funny how like the value of something is completely changed when it's in a completely different setting? So I think it is a good point to lead on to. So awards for us are they are amazing, and I think there's different types of awards. So for the awards that we've won, I think they definitely showcase the creativity, but they're probably too early to showcase the kind of the commercial aspect. Where I think it's the Design and Business Award. I think which one it is now that actually showcases long-term
design. The Design Impact Awards.
Design Impact Awards. It showcases long-term study on whether that brand has been successful commercially and normally in retail. So I think something like that really, really does showcase like the impact of the work you've done. Whereas a lot of the awards we've won in the first instance have been kind of top line for their creative output and how beautiful they are and how good they look.
Yeah, I think awards in general, you know, you have to pay to get in, you have to pay to have the award, you know, you have to pay to go to the ceremony. They are a bit of a racket, and everyone, you know, everyone's in that racket. They've got to make money, that's fine. But yeah, I think that like, I know Dieline did have an award, I think that was more commercial. It was one of their awards. But like Ben said, the Impact Award is we'd love to be able to enter that with a project. But I think the big problem is it's very, don't know how they do this in the Impact Awards, for example, but it's very, very hard to nail down and say, since this rebrand or since this piece of work has been integral, has been the reason why you've increased 200% turnover or whatever, you know, because along with that, you've got a whole marketing department, you've got, you know, socials, you've got
so
commercially, the product price. Yeah, like there's so much, and how available the product is, where is it being sold? So it's so tricky, but I do think that on every side, awards need to figure out how to do this, and designers need to figure out how to really show their work has had a positive effect commercially.
Perhaps I should reconsider my previous question, as maybe there is no real dilemma between creativity and commerciality. A genuinely great idea can break the mold, change the norm, and achieve commercial success precisely by being innovative. The truth is that nobody really knows. Nobody really knows this for sure from the beginning.
For me, it's almost like when I see really successful brands that have really bad design. I can't remember the name now. Grenade Bar, is it? Grenade. You know, I think, is it Grenade Bar? Anybody? I'm not sure. Grenade. Yeah. They're a really successful, super successful brand, at least in the UK, an energy bar, like for the gym. And the design quality is awful from our point of view, anyway, from my point of view. But somehow it sold loads and loads and loads. And maybe there's a place for, like, if somebody had said, actually, you know, I'm a great designer, but I need to design this way to appeal to this market, then that's a really beautiful piece of design and commerciality, because they've designed towards that audience. But I don't know if that's the story behind it. But I always get surprised by things that sell really, really well when they look awful, and it wouldn't have come out of our studio or any other studio I can think about that I respect.
I quite like that though. I quite like being proved wrong. You know, like because we think branding is so important, it's like natively in our world, it's our business. Like everything is about branding. But then these companies like Grenade or others showcase that with the right sort of heavy commercial side and the right push, you can pretty much.
Yeah, but I think I'm not saying it's not. It's been branded. It's not like it's just happened by accident. Somebody has made a thing. It's just that what is perceived as good branding could do, or perceived as bad branding could do really well.
Is it good branding, bad branding, or good aesthetics, bad aesthetics? At least with your criteria.
To me, what I think. Clearly, it must be good branding, but it's a bad aesthetic.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
By the way, Grenade Bar, come to us for a rebrand. We can help. We've done it with Who Gives a Crap. Come.
I believe that a lot of young designers might listen that episode here in Greece. Do you think you can give them a piece of advice regarding balancing that creativity and commerciality issue? If there is, I don't know, what would be your closure on that?
I wouldn't even, if you're a young designer, I wouldn't even be thinking about those things. If you are a really young designer, I think the main thing, if I was to give any tips, because we interview for designers all the time. And I think I guess it is more commercial because you're trying to show, I would say that you want to look at a really, for young designers, just having an awesome portfolio. It doesn't matter who you're working with, who you've worked with, whatever names, whatever your university, whatever your degree, we don't care. We want to see an amazing creative portfolio. And even if it's all fake, even if you've done nothing to do with any brand that we know of, but you just made up these briefs yourself, because we see so much boring stuff because people have worked with the wrong. I mean, this is actually a commercial tip. Work with the right studios. If you are going to work with a studio, work with someone that you can express yourself, and if you can't, do it freelance. In fact, you can edit all the rest of it out. The best tip we've got is if you're looking to work with a really good studio, make sure you've worked with a great one before, and if not, work freelance. Create these projects that you want to be working for, really outputs your style, and then knock on the door to the brands you want to work with.
Yeah, I think you've got to, the commercial side of it for me is presenting your work in the right way, being someone who, often studios are quite small, and being the right kind of person is really important. Letting them see who you are and what you're about. But the work is the most important thing. So if you want to be at a studio that has a certain level of work, then you need to create work that looks like it could realistically fit into that roster of work, or show promise, that you could get there. So if you haven't got it in your portfolio, get it in your portfolio, aim for that work and kind of create the work that you want the place you want to work for almost.
This is excellent advice for young designers. Showcase the kind of work you genuinely aspire to create and the brands you dream of collaborating with. Once again, thank you so much for joining me on Branding for Greeks and sharing your valuable insights and experience. Keep branding, keep inspiring us, and have a great night.
Thank you so much,
George. Thank you. May I add one last thing, George? Sorry to
of course.
Sign off. Just for all your listeners out there that are keen to hear more, that we've got something that's coming out of LYON LYON that's our own project, our own brand, our own thing. It could change branding forever. It's a big
wow,
a big idea. But just for your listeners to keep on the lookout. Follow us on Instagram, sign up to our mailing list. At some point this year, probably June time, we're going to launch something pretty amazing. So it's gonna challenge AI as well. So we'll see.
Wow, that's amazing. I definitely will be one that keep checking every day your Instagram.
No, not every day.
Well, thank you very much once again. Have a good night, and I hope we'll talk again.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Let's begin.
You've just listened to another episode of the Branding for Greeks podcast with me, George Karayiannis. Until the next one, I wish you all the best. And don't forget,
Everything is branding.